Good afternoon, folks, and thanks for joining us. This is the Calf Kick Sports Podcast. My name is Tim Wheaton, joined as always by Ash, and we have a special guest today, and we are so excited. Coming off a huge TKO victory against Brandon Vera, representing India and Canada, the one championship heavyweight champion, Arjan Bhullar, joining us today.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Hanging out. Appreciate you being on. Heavyweight champion of the world, Arjan Bhullar. How good does that sentence sound to you, sir?
That sounds as good as I always thought it would sound. And now that it's real, it feels amazing.
That's awesome.
Love it. Go ahead, Ash.
Yes, I mean, your next fight is actually with the undefeated Russian powerhouse, Anatoly Malykhin. What's the game plan for your next opponent?
We're game planning. We've been game planning for him, and we're game planning now as well. We see his strengths. Obviously, he's got a wrestling background. His last fight, he's able to show some of his striking. But we see big holes which we can exploit, and that's what we're going to focus on.
Awesome stuff. That is great to hear. Now, you received a gada from the legendary Dara Singh. One day, is that something that you're going to keep forever, or is it a hope to pass it on to the next generation of great wrestlers?
That will be passed down to the next generation of my kids.
Oh, that's great. I love it. Ash, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, so I actually wanted to ask you this. I mean, you've competed at 285 pounds in the past, as a wrestler, and now you're well within the heavyweight limit in MMA. Did you have to have some massive lifestyle changes to get so low in weight?
So the wrestling weight class was 265, the same as MMA, on the top end there, 120 kilos. So, and I was sitting at about 260 when I wrestled. But I was also lifting a lot more. I was, getting the calories up. She had shorter rounds, 2-minute rounds, 3-minute rounds. So, it's a different game. And then when I got into this, basically we had to, change up the lifting regime and the nutrition, and just naturally too, with the work rate, with 5-minute rounds, for training, it comes off, pretty naturally, and it's worked out well for us.
Awesome stuff, man. Now, you've said in Canada, people can be anything they want. People can do anything in Canada. But what does the future of combat sports and wrestling look like in the country of India?
In terms of wrestling, they just did great at the World Championships, and did the Wrestling World Championships in Oslo, Norway. Before that, in Tokyo, they had a couple of medalists. So wrestling's, they always got young guns coming up, and it's in the culture. They got a great infrastructure built for that. I just think that, MMA is so green out there, and so much potential is what I see. And I actually got some plans for on the ground out there. Hopefully they pan out. And there's a vehicle for those wrestlers and those boxers that do so well at the Olympics to go into MMA and develop in that route as well.
That's awesome to hear. I mean, just going by that as well, I actually asked this question to Rahul Raju, another Indian fighter from 1FC. I'm just going to say basically the same thing. I mean, don't you find it crazy? I'm from Indian heritage as well. But don't you find it crazy that of all the billions of Indians present, there's such a small fraction of professional fighters? And just to give context, you got Kalari, a martial art based out of, Kerala, India. It's one of the oldest recorded martial arts in the world. And, you're the only kind of MMA Indian world champion. Why do you think that is?
I think there's always got to be a first to get a second and a third and so on and so forth. You have to show that it's possible, number one. And then number two, there has to be an infrastructure as well. Once someone does it, you have to have the infrastructure available for the others that want to now do it and think that it's possible. So I think that second piece is the most important now. Now that they know someone's done it, and they want to do it as well, to set up the infrastructure and have the support set up so they do it.
Absolutely, man. No, that makes perfect sense. We want to switch course a little bit into something that I bet you actually do want to talk about. We were wrestling fans kind of in the Attitude Era. You've called out Jake Hager. You've called out Bobby Lashley. Is WWE wrestling possibly in your future?
They both are. We've engaged with both companies, and we should have something coming down the pipe very soon. And that's what I'll say. I've picked a fight with both companies, and everyone out there, and it's something I'm going to do. And we're just looking for to get the business case in order and the right approach. That's all.
Awesome.
Is there any pro wrestlers, or like wrestlers in general that really made you want to get into the hurt business? I know you're a huge fan of Daniel Cormier. Was he a big inspiration, as an example?
Okay, so pro wrestlers I was influenced growing up by all of them, man. From the Warriors and the Hogans and the Savages to the Mr. Perfects, to friggin' you name it, man. Sting to Ric Flair, everybody, and down to the Attitude Era with Austin and The Rock and all these guys. So I was influenced by the whole industry, and and I'm excited to kind of emulate some of those guys and also surpass some of those guys and create my own legend within the space.
I love it, man. That's great to hear. You're going to have a great legacy ahead of you. You've already got a great legacy built already, but it's going to be great to see where you go next. Now, a lot of fighters have talked about how nervous they get before fights. George St. Pierre, Nick Diaz, Darren Till have talked about they're so nervous before fights. How do you handle the pressure? How do you handle being nervous before big fights?
One, that the other person's feeling it as well. Those guys, I've spoken to it. Everyone's human. So it's how you handle that moment and those feelings that determine your greatness. And I believe I am great, and I believe I have the ability to control my insides and command my body and be in full control. And I think the proof's in the pudding.
Nice. So just switching gears a little bit. I mean, you were on a win streak in the UFC. What was the main reason for stepping away? And could there be a future in the UFC, or are you just happy at being at one championship at the moment?
I shouldn't have got that 1L. I was winning every second of that fight too.
You was. Yeah.
That pisses me off, but hopefully maybe I'll get it back down the line sometime. It was. We basically, I was a free agent, and I'm a big believer in testing my value and my worth. And the UFC offered me a contract. It was a standard contract they offer once the first one's up. And they made it clear that India and that demographic was not a priority market for them. And the standard contract reflected that. But then in came one. We had offers from Bellator as well, but in came one, and they made it a point that, hey, we got offices in Bangalore. We want to, go into that. We got a TV deal, Star Sports. We want you to be our champion. And the check they signed, the contract they offered reflected that investment. So it was a no-brainer for me on a personal level. It made the most sense, and that's just the way I roll in life.
Absolutely. You're going to get paid what you're valued, and I love to hear it. Now, a lot of fighters we're going to ask you two more questions and we'll let you go, but a lot of fighters do have signature brands. Some have signature whiskeys, tequilas, hot sauces. If you had a signature brand, what would be the Arjan Bhullar brand?
Oh, okay. I haven't, in terms of food, in terms of, what are we talking about?
Literally anything we've had people say marijuana wraps, anything you want, Arjan.
Mine's my mace, man. That is my brand. I've got my mace on my shoulder, and to carry that mace, you have to be great. And not only in terms of a champion, in terms of character. It takes great, that mace is a symbol of Hanuman, which represents strength and courage and righteousness and humility, but also the ability to smash. And that's what I'm about, and that's my brand.
Fantastic. So yeah, going to end it with this final question. Where do you see yourself? It could be you as a fighter, it could be you, as a non-fighter. Where do you see yourself as in 5 years' time, Arjan?
Well, you know what? I'm really enjoying where I'm at. Chatri's, handled me very well, treated me very well. Sorry. Looks like he'll be open to the opportunity of pro wrestling. And you know what? With all these, boxing fights happening as well, I like my hands. I've always liked boxing. Maybe that's somewhere down the line there as well. If we're talking a 5-year plan, that would be fun to kind of test out as well.
Awesome stuff. Arjan, we really appreciate your time. My name's Tim with Tim Wheaton MMA. He is Ash at ashmma.tks. We are the Calf Kick Sports Podcast. Arjan, you get the last word. Tell the folk, where can they find more of you, sir? You can find me on Instagram, the one Arjan Singh Bhullar, Twitter, the one _ASB, Facebook, all of that. So those are my social handles, but I'll be making headlines very soon. We got some stuff in the works. So if you don't come to me, I'll come to you either way. Absolutely love it. Thank you for your time, sir. Thanks, gentlemen. Thanks, Arjan.